IVM.
Hey all, I'm Rohan Joshi and I'm so glad that this podcast, the show about crypto, has gotten such a great response. I've been having a lot of fun trying to decode how these new technologies can help us with the help of experts from around the industry. So if you're enjoying the show, could you please help a fellow crypto head out? We've got a listener survey going on and you can fill it in under 10 minutes. The survey link is in this episode's description. And don't forget to tune into a show about crypto on the IVM podcast app and wherever else you get your podcast from. Hi, welcome to a show about crypto. It is our season finale, I believe. And joining me today to talk about the budget that has happened, which mentioned the magic word crypto properly for the first time, is Ekalavya Bhattacharya, who has worked with MTV, worked with Alt Balaji, but is now geared and focused towards a Web3 feature, Web3 future, and helping brands strategize for the Web3 future. Ekalavya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. So the budget happened last week, at least at the time of recording this. And the word crypto was uttered by the finance minister, immediately followed by the words 30% taxation and the word Digital Rupee. What does it all mean?
See, firstly, for the basics of economics, right, 30% tax is required. Now let's look at why the government did what it had to, right? So you've got to understand that while crypto, blockchain, Web3 has a lot of interesting applications, the main angst of the government was Bitcoin and the whole family of cryptocurrencies were defined under the term of currency, right? And that's what was irritating primarily government officials, right? So what has happened now, if you look at it, everyone's talking about VDA, right? Virtual digital asset. Now, what's actually happened is NFTs, your investments in various kinds of crypto coins have now all be assigned as an asset. Now, what does that mean? As long as you have an asset, it can be taxed, right? But why tax them, right? Like why? Like if you've seen a lot of people have been like, what is this government doing? What is this 30% tax? Humne jo paisa banaya tha, everything's gone. See, you've got to realize for the basics of economics, right? And this is not India specific. This is happening globally. For a country to thrive and maybe even survive, right? You need honest citizens who earn and they pay their taxes, right? And also they don't launder their money. So while Web3, blockchain, crypto has a lot of great applications in the future as the web will evolve, one of the basic logical steps of evolution was the government coming in and not saying everything is banned, no one is going to be allowed to do anything because the world is changing, right? And more countries and institutions are evolving and people realize that digital currency and using blockchain is the future. So the government comes in and says, okay, here is a way, at least don't use it to money launder, okay? And if you've made a lot of money, then please pay your taxes like you do in your regular lives, right? So if you have to look at it and why the government has done it, it is the first step, right? It's a first step, a natural first step for the evolution. Now, what are the problems with it? What it has done? I'm sure we'll discuss in the next few questions.
So in terms of the problems with it, right? Like, let's just go straight there. What do you think are the problems with it? Because the one sort of counter narrative that's immediately emerged is, this is going to lead to brain drain and investor drain. And, everyone's going to move to Dubai now. And that's going to be it. And goodbye, crypto India. Now, how much of that is like a knee-jerk industry reaction to all the people seeing their profits being taxed? And how much of that, if any, is valid is what I'm trying to understand.
See, this has been happening for a while, right? And it's not just our country. If you look at what's happening, say, probably a country similar is South Korea, right? Mm-hmm. And while a lot of people say, yes, the word decentralized, anyone who's heard your podcast will understand now what is a decentralized, what do we mean by decentralized, right? But at the end of the day, the main problem with the central bank digital currency, which is going to come up with, and the Indian rupee, yes, they are the first steps in when all currency gets tokenized in the future. And there are a lot of economic researchers, journalists, professors who've been talking about this in the future, right? Like eventually all paper money is going to stop and everything is going to be digitized. And we are already somewhere in the step, right? Like Fruit Wala Abhi takes UPI, right? So you're going to eventually stop using paper currency. And see, for the future aspect of it, will it happen in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Does not matter, right? Eventually, it's a great first step. Now, what is the problem? What is the problem with this, right? See, how can this whole taxation be implemented? Let's look at that, right? So I've invested in crypto probably 2-3 years back, and now as an investor, I'm like, shit, man, like I'm going to lose money. What's going to happen, right? What is this tax? How does it come up now? So you have to understand that why the government has done it. Firstly, they have made it difficult for people to buy. Right. A lot of purchase of crypto primarily happens peer-to-peer, right? Like that's the way it was built. Okay. Yeah. Now when these exchanges come in, what they probably will do is they're going to ask every exchange to have a license. Okay. Now, what do you mean by a license, right? The license means as soon as you purchase, your TDS will get cut. Okay, government will ask you for a lot of proofs of who you are, where you are, upload a photograph, upload your bank account, etc. Right? And when you are exiting or trying to make money, and a lot of exchanges already don't allow you to transfer your currency to other wallets, right? So they have some restrictions, or you can't directly load up INR, etc. So this is being done so imagine the world of Web3, blockchain, crypto is is decentralized, right? It's anonymous, etc. But the entry gate and the exit gate is what is going to be walled, right? Walled with securities, walled with policies which are going to come in primarily to ensure that, and this is logical, okay, for a country to take the first step, this had to happen, right? Because you can't just tell people, okay, we are aware of it, do whatever you want, right? Because as crypto and Bitcoin, it's spreading just from an urban phenomenon, just from a young phenomenon to now everyone wants to know what's happening, right? So we have a lot of these exchanges who are advertising with celebrities, stars. So people are getting to know it, right? The biggest fear which I heard when I'd gone for a little wedding in a small town in Madhya Pradesh, people were saying कि भाई मैं taxes बचा रहा हूँ through crypto, तू नहीं कर रहा. Okay, now that when it moves to the masses, right? People think that, okay, I'm stupid if I'm not utilizing crypto to not pay taxes, right? And that's not what you want, right? Like at the end of the day, that's not what you want. So at the end of the day, why the government did this is logical, right? It's the next step. Okay, but what are the advantages of it, right? The advantages of it are people can get scammed, right? Like if you're buying peer-to-peer, if you're buying from someone, right? And someone just disappears after you're taking your money, you can't really do anything, right? Because you can't go to the cops and say, okay, I was doing something which might be deemed illegal, but now I've gotten scammed, right? The other thing is a lot of institutions and companies and brands, right? So the waters were really murky over there, right? Like most companies didn't have a crypto strategy, or they didn't know. As individuals working in the organization, they were probably very enthusiastic about it. But you know, the way a lot of Indian companies are also structured, right? We are not all working out of a DAO yet, right? Like companies are not become DAO friendly. So again, you know, there's hesitancy in the forms of, you know, the legal departments, the finance departments. So even if companies want to do something in this whole crypto, Web3, blockchain space, they were a little hesitant because they didn't know what's going to happen. What's this tax thing? What if we get banned overnight? So one of the good things is at least everyone will now, you'll see a lot of agencies sprouting up, right? And basically helping brands saying that everyone should have a Web3 blockchain strategy. Okay.
Right.
Now coming to, sorry for digressing a little, but what's the problem? No, not at all. Yeah. Okay. What's the problem with this whole CBDC, Indian Digital Rupee? So like I explained, right? Is the future of currency going to be digitized? Of course, right? It's logical. We've read it in books. We've seen it in sci-fi movies. No one's going to use paper currency, etc. Will it happen overnight? Now people don't know, right? Like even the concept of digital wallets for cash, etc. was accelerated. The demonetization was a big catalyst, right? Irrespective of what everyone says, right? Like it forces you to evolve. Something like that forced us to evolve, right? Like video chats, conferences. The pandemic forced us to evolve. It always existed, but not everyone was on it. Again, a similar story form is Web 2, right? Where everyone in Web 2 was user generated content. Early days for you also in that space. Everyone was saying this is the future. 2004-5 Orkut there, Twitter coming on, people saying user generated content is the future, and most of the people were like, yeah, user generated content is shit, right? Like it's really bad quality. What are you taking? No one is gonna watch it. But you've seen evolution, right? Like over the last 15, 17 years now where we are, right? User generated content in the forms of TikToks, Reels, it's your primary source of content consumption when it comes to videos, right? So it's taken time, right? Ever since Google's acquisition of YouTube to actually where the video world has reached right now, it's taken time. But the seeds were sown, right? So the same way when you look at Web3 and how it's going to impact the ledger activities of a cryptocurrency, and also, a cool thing when people said is assets, right? And in a mail to your producer, I actually mentioned, I don't want to go too deep into assets because, assets are very difficult to right now define. Okay. Your cryptocurrency might be an asset. Your NFT might be an asset. If you're working with a company and there's a smart contract made about your payments, that's also an asset, right? Different metaverses are going to come up within the metaverse. If you own an art piece or something, that's also an asset, right? So, which is why I was like, like the word asset is going to evolve, right? We are scratching, like we are on the very early stage of Web3. But the good thing is, people are open now. Government's also saying we are not going to just make it illegal. You're not going to go to jail because you're investing in it, right? That's good for a lot of people. But what does this enable the government to do, right? Like the government right now with policies will go to all these exchanges and say, to survive or to thrive or to even just operate in our country, you have to comply with these norms, right? And those norms will scare some people, right? So people who are using exchanges probably illegally, who are parking all their money. And for that, you have to realize, why did this all start, right? And that's where my problem against the CBDC, central bank digital currency, etc., comes in. Like, why was a blockchain used as a ledger activity like Bitcoin, right? It was primarily used because people were scared. Right. So the main attitude was, don't trust anybody. Why don't you trust anybody? Because my currency can get devalued overnight, right? And it's happened in countries, right? It's happened in Venezuela, whole economy suddenly collapsing, right? And your a lakh suddenly, which you have in your account, is worth 10,000. That's going to break your heart, right? For a lot of people in our country, right? And like for masses in our country, overnight devaluation is a fear, right? Demonetization is a fear. Okay. And getting scammed by, say, even banks, right? Like till of late, if you were putting all your money in a bank, and if the bank went bankrupt, you couldn't do anything. It's your hard-earned money, which you put in a bank, and the bank's going bankrupt, but you don't get anything, right? So, which is why, if you look at it, people used to invest in gold, right? People used to invest in gold. Why? Because they used to feel, apart from what's going to happen, this gold is going to be a stable form of currency, right? At any particular point of time. So that's when people realized, okay, let's look at the blockchain as a ledger tool, right, for a currency aspect of it, which is what became really popular. Now, investments and arbitrage aside, right, the primarily usage was for that. And then things became convenient, right? People realized, I can do peer-to-peer payments. I can do payments to friends without, like basic stuff where multiple laws, banks asking you, why are you getting international money? Banks asking you, why are you sending international money, right? So people realize that convenience forces evolution, right? And which is why we're having this conversation, because even the Bitcoin world and cryptocurrency world and Web3 world, they're also evolving over time, right? So the main problem of the digital currency, etc., right, which is going to which they are saying is gonna come, right, is the decentralization aspect of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how does that happen? Like, if the government owns the digital rupee, because here we're living in this weird, like, almost backwards universe where today Nandan Nilekhani is coming out and saying that the digital rupee should be anonymous. And I'm like, bhai, tu Aadhaar bana hai aur tu ye bol raha hai. Matlab, ho kya raha hai? Okay, a lot more to come in this conversation about what the budget means for cryptocurrency with Ekalavya Bhattacharya. But all of that on the other side of a short break.
Don't you think that if everyone around you is getting smart, you better be smarter? Hey there, I'm the traveling professor Siddharth Deshmukh, and I'm back with season 2 of my podcast to make you smarter. Smarter with Sid. What's this season's focus about? Well, it's about 10-minute nuggets that will make you stand out at work. It's time to go from smart to smarter. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday and become smarter with Sid.
Hello and welcome back to a show about crypto. I am in conversation with Ekalavya Bhattacharya about what the budget means for the state of crypto.
So, see, it's the first step of evolution, right? And which is why I'm saying, so a government had to do that. A government had to do that because basic economics of a country say that tax evasion and money laundering are activities which can bring a country down, right? And global economy, every country is saying that, right? So, can I allow you to play in a garden? Of course, because everyone's coming to the garden, right? And everyone's coming to the garden. All the different countries are enjoying in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Your youth and people who are interested will probably, like what you mentioned earlier, will say, I don't want to work in this country anymore. Or they leave and they will say, ki, bhai, this, like, why are you not letting us play in this garden, right? So the government is saying, ki, theek hai, okay, you can enter the garden with, earlier you could enter the garden with any currency. But now that the entry ticket, right? But now that entry ticket is not a currency, it is an asset. Okay. You can ideally enter the garden through my currency, which is the fiat currency, the Indian Digital Rupee. The planning is that to enter, and that's what I'm thinking logically, right? To thinking logically, what probably the Indian government or RBI will want is if you are stepping into this garden, right, your ticket, which is your asset now, has to be purchased with our Indian currency.
Right.
Then once you go in, you do whatever you want, right? And you do whatever you want, which is probably still, they're going to define as what is legal, what is illegal.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And that's why they're going to tax you. TDS, they're going to tax you. Even if you're sending it to someone as a friend, they're going to tax you. But now what they're saying is when you want to come out of the garden, okay, now you entered with 50,000 rupees. Now your 50,000 rupees in 5 years has become 5 lakh rupees. Right? Great, good investment call, well done. But now when you're coming out of the garden, okay, you have to pay the tax, right? Similarly, if your 50,000 which you've invested, but you've invested just because of hype, because you read someone's tweet saying this is going to the moon, and you are like, oh wow, this is going to the moon, and your 50,000 becomes 5 rupees, right? You're not going to get the tax benefits of it, right? So still, it's a little murky. People are trying to figure it out, whether it's going to be taxation related to my entire income, just a transaction. But right now, I'll tell you the biggest, what the government has managed to achieve by an announcement, right? Everyone's talking. We are talking about it. A lot. Anyone who's interested in it, especially the older people who are, the people who had FOMO, कि भाई सब लोग इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, मैं नहीं कर रहा. Oh my God, what the hell, right? They are the happy ones.
Don't forget all the other people who are like, oh, अब क्या हुआ तेरे क्रिप्टो का 30% tax के साथ. Those very important category of people.
It enabled them to send memes, right? It enabled them with some arms to, reach on the WhatsApp groups and make fun of people because of the fear of feeling FOMO. So keep the investment angle aside, right? Like what the government has primarily done has basically allowed conversation, and this will allow the crypto world to evolve, right? Like we've already seen this happening. Like you must have read the news yesterday. Polygon raised some insane amount of money. I didn't even it was difficult to put the amount of zeros I was trying, right?
Some stupid
$450 million, right? So you have to realize that earlier people were scared, right? Like a lot of investors, investing institutions, not angel investors, etc. Like who can take the risk. It's known as the FU money, right? Like ha bhai paisa pada hai dal dete. But we did recently an NFT auction with a finance influencer, and the top utility was you get a chance to collaborate with the influencer, right? Now the deal which you could do, and we did this on Solana, etc. So that's a different story. Just buying Solana was a 6-7 step process. But we reached out to some brands and we told the brands that if you anyway work with so-and-so, you're going to be paying 3x the amount. So why don't you be cool and actually participate in this NFT auction, which will also get you some PR points, but also get you a deal at a 50-70% discount.
Sure.
Most of the brands were like, wow, Eka, this is so brilliant and this is the future. Unfortunately, I wish I had the reins of the finance and legal teams in my department, because our finance and legal department have said that we can't do anything with crypto, right? So now you've got to realize there was a lot of hesitancy, right? Like a lot of established companies were also hesitant ki bhai, as individuals, everyone's happy. Oh wow, this is a good phase. We can put money, we can send memes, we can like the tweet of Elon Musk, right? Like it enables you as part of the conversation. But now you got to realize that now this opens up even companies to do something. It enables investors to invest in Web3 development, blockchain development, which is not just about currency, right? Like it can impact sports, it can impact governance, it can impact tourism, it can avoid frauds and scams happening in the fashion world, in the memorabilia world. So the applications are immense. And by doing this, at least by not telling people everything, and this is what the fear happened in around 2017-18, right? When there are a lot of exchanges at that time just shut down because the government said this is all illegal. Anyone who's put anything will get a notice saying that kahan se paisa aaya, kyun dala hai, etc. And that created a lot of fear. This has also created fear. Okay, you lose money and see, if you're investing in crypto, you should not care about ups and downs, right? Because if you really want to you are ideally, if you are just an investor, there are far easier ways to make money, right? In a legit way without too much stress. You are in the crypto world because either completely because of FOMO, because your peer group is inspired you, or you're genuinely a believer, right? You're genuinely a believer that a lot of stuff which is happening is logical, right? Like eventually tokenizing is going to avoid counterfeit money, right? Like, great. Eventually, no government can just mint their own money and add it into the economy, because every token, irrespective of what Mr. Nilekani says, every token eventually, even if you don't want to track it, if it is a token, it is going to be trackable. It is going to be trackable, yeah. So and people will know, and that's good for global economy, right? So you're removing counterfeit money, you're knowing bureaucracy, red tapeism, how much money is gonna go under the table to win tender notices of government, etc. So everything is gonna get sorted. So if someone asks you, how do we make India corruption free? Like that's a simple answer, right? Like just take all currency and make it trackable, right? Do people want it? Do government officials themselves want it? Will it take? It's going to take decades, right, for something like that to happen. But in a utopian society, if someone asks you what is the way forward, and which is why if like there's so much literature around this, right? Like tokenizing your entire currency is a logical future. It's definitely going to happen, and this is a great first step. Will it happen overnight? It can't, right? It logically can't unless paper currency gets banned, right? Because everyone becomes aware of climate change. People say we can't use paper anymore. Something crazy has to happen, right? Like what happened with pandemic. Anyone who touches paper gets a disease, then that'll force evolution, right? But otherwise, there are a lot of grays in this area right now. But overall, I think it's a very logical step which the government has taken. By ensuring that at least they are telling people that we are aware of the potential in this world, but also please don't mess around, please don't right? Please don't use it for illegal activities. Please pay your taxes. Don't use it for money laundering. And this is the fear if you see, like, especially if you talk about drugs, right? And if you look at Colorado, if you look at what the US markets have done, right? Like people eventually realize, right? If you tax illegal activities and make them and bring them some sort of under the umbrella of legality, a lot of people stop doing it, right? Because the coolness of it goes, right?
The thrill is gone.
Of it goes, right? So I think it's going to be a great step in evolution. Yes, some tax is going to happen, but what people are not realizing is these taxes, to be implied, is going to be very exchange driven. And for people who are already in the crypto world and have been in the crypto world for a while, the future or the way it was visualized, it's a peer-to-peer transaction, right? So if there are enough people in the world who have enough cryptocurrency in their wallets, they don't really need exchanges, right? But now, like what I told you, what South Korea's done, a lot of other countries are doing, what India wants to do is to enter this world, we're going to make it a little difficult. And if we make it a little difficult, hopefully we'll be able to track. So no one cares your 10 rupees became 50 rupees, right? Government's not going to come back to you like you put 100 rupees and it's become 5,000 rupees. They don't care. But when those zeros get multiple and the country actually sees that, yes, we are losing a significant amount of money, that's who they're going to come after, right? And so honestly, it's a logical step, right? So there's no good, there's no bad. It's going to keep evolving, and it's interesting, right?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Ekalavya. My main takeaway from this is that what the budget has done is it's made crypto mainstream. It's basically that thing that happened where so here's how I can summarize it, right? And you can totally call bullshit on this, but what's happened with this budget, from what I can tell, is it's like we all had this cool pop star that we knew about and we got excited about in school. And now suddenly we've come home and we found out that mom is also talking about him, basically. And it's become mainstream. Now the parents also know. Yeah. And now the parents are trying to figure out, okay, what is this person's music about and how do we control our kids in terms of making sure it's not a bad influence. That's where we are right now in 2022 in terms of this thing. Is that now going to turn us into a nanny state? Is that now going to turn us into a cool parent? I think, like you said, only the future years are going to tell us that over the next few decades. So thank you so much for joining us. This was very lucid, very, very informative.
Yeah, I wanted to keep it simple. Plus, I didn't want to. I have some sort of a verbal diarrhea, right? Like I spoke so much. Thank you for being a great listener, and I hope everyone loves
not
this
at all.
episode.
Everything you said was super lucid, and I think, like I said, right, like the main goal of this first season has just been to take information and words that are floating around on the internet with a lot of hype these days, and just add context to them. And I think you did that perfectly. So thanks so much, man. Thank you for being here.
Have a great day. Thanks, guys.
You too, man. Thank you. All right. With that, we have come to the end of this season of a show about crypto. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you so much to everybody who has listened and who is listening, whether that is today or a year from now or whenever. If you have any feedback about the show, please feel free to write back to us so we can improve it and do all of those things. Until we meet again, this is Rohan Joshi signing out on a show about crypto. Thank you.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Storytellers and Storytellers, Vineet talks to filmmaker and production designer Uzair Merchant. He shares how he's created the world's first ever NFT music video. On The Habit Coach, Ashton talks to Joe Town, Hollywood actor and coach of the performer's mindset. They decode various aspects of the high performer mindset and how to deal with mind blanking. On Press Decode, Sara Vagda and Prafulla discuss the controversy around Joe Rogan's Spotify podcast and Netflix India's growing woes. On The Longest Constitution, Priya discusses menstruation, maternity, and disability at the workplace. And on Ikaduka Economy, Abhinav and Dr. Junjunwala discuss the effects of rising inflation. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, please do tell a friend. It really does help us when you spread the word about our podcast. And I'd also like to ask you if you could rate or recommend wherever you listen to our podcast. And speaking of where you listen to this show, if you're on an Android phone, do check out our new Android app. We have a brand new app with a brand new listening experience. Definitely check it out. I think you will enjoy it. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber. Thank you so much for making this possible.
We know you love fast food,
fast fashion,
faster payment,
lightning fast internet speed.
Then why not fast information?
On Think Fast, where we discuss the latest developments in the world of technology, business, marketing, pop culture.
With a side of sarcasm and my dad jokes, not just mine.
Not mine, Varun. My jokes are funny. So join me, guys, the funnier one, Suchita Salvan, co-founder of LBB.
And me, Varun Dugirala, the co-founder of The Glitch, as we think fast only on the IVM network.
Fresh episodes out every Monday.
On the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.